Hello, everyone, and welcome. Blessings and good tea to you. I'm happy to be sharing this information today because I'm happy. I'm happy to be in my chair that I've had for years and be sipping on five mushroom tea, be looking out my window at my favorite willow tree. I'm happy and inspired to share this information because I know it can help many individuals as it's helped me for years. I feel like the content here is most resonant for fellow counselors and healers, for entrepreneurs and high performers, for yogis and those who are spiritually minded, but it's going to benefit anyone because it has to do with alignment. I can't think of a more important thing than alignment because alignment is our harmony, our highest level of harmony and being on our path, being on our spiritual road, being in harmony with the compass of the heart. And we're going to get more into definition and get really clear on what I mean by alignment because it is the whole focus of my coaching system. And I've created a coaching system and it's taking me years. I first started in holistic coaching around 9 years ago. I first called my business ZK Alignment Coaching. It took me so long to find a name and ended up changing it. But if you write ZK Alignment Coaching, it's Z for ZK, alignment A, and then coaching C, it spells Zach. So I knew that I was on the right path when I saw that. There was that synchronicity. And it took me years to develop a system because I had to live it. I had to work with the system and I had to see that it worked. And I had to build it into my embodiment. And thank God that I did this work because it has pulled me through many challenging times. And it is my anchor. I'm a very airy person. And my mind is so full of ideas that I can get lost in that. And having a system of comprehensive tracking is so beneficial. And even if you're not an airy person, having a system in which you track is so important because how else are you going to notice patterns? How else are you going to know if strategies have been working? And a holistic tracking system is not just about tracking things like your calories and your workouts. It's about your alignment, your spiritual path, your dream, the themes that you're living in, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, that kind of tracking. So the information here, I'm going to share a bit about a structuring of how I offer my coaching. But there's so many variations of it. So I'm going to be mindful and intuitive on what I share. But I would like to offer you a little window into how I track myself because I feel like one of the greatest offerings I have is my lived example of this work and how it's benefited me. To do that, I'm going to share some of my daily practices and my weekly practices. And then if you find resonance with those, I can share the information or the worksheets that I use. And then you can apply those and see the benefits for yourself. So before we get into the content for today, I want to talk a little bit about alignment. Create kind of a definition and structure because it's a very common word. It can be used in many different contexts, of course. But I'm talking about our highest level of alignment. I talk about the highest path. And when I talk about the highest path, I talk about the highest path of love. It's like the heart's compass, the spiritual intelligence of the heart guides us to that. And it's the highest path of dharma. Dharma is like, in my articulation, it's like the universal order. And when we act in a good way within ourselves, in an authentic way, and we can fit that universal order. So it's not just the path that's best for us as the individual. The highest dharmic path is best for us and best for our family and community and earth and all living beings. So that's the highest path of dharma. And then it's also the path of what Bashar, the channeled alien entity, would call the path of excitement, which he translates excitement as being true to our core vibration when we're acting on our excitement. So I would preface this by saying not just like excitement, like back in my day doing a bunch of um, substances on the weekend in my teenage years, and that has a certain excitement quality. But I think there's a deeper thing he's talking about there. There's definitely a deeper thing he's talking about there of true excitement, like alignment excitement. Like when something is aligned and exciting, that's why I add in there the highest path of dharma and love, because they're calibration points. That rings out different in the system because alignment is something that is a felt sense. And it's an emotional felt sense, but emotions have highs and lows. It's a deeper felt sense. Like it rings out deeper, like a guitar string plucked just right. When we're out of alignment, I can hear it in my voice. I can feel it in the way that I move, my kinesthetic being. It ripples out. But when I'm in alignment, there's a harmony within me and a shared harmony with my interaction between my breath and my environment. Yeah, that's that highest path of harmony. So alignment is this thing I can continue to talk a lot about and try to do my best to give examples on, but you got to know it's a feeling. You got to know it's a feeling within you, and once you know the feeling and you're tracking it and you're taking deliberate action to maintain your vibrational alignment with who you are, why you came here, what your gifts are, that path of synchronicity, your highest path of love, listening to the heart compass, listening to your emotions, listening to your imagination and your higher self. That's the one. That's the one. It's hard to talk about. Maybe it isn't. I like talking about it. But it's hard to give a definition on because it's like a concept like love. Sure, you can define it, you can talk about it, but those are just windows. Those are just doorways, and you can open those doors and those words and you can come into endless abysses. So I hope you can understand on some level alignment. I'm sure you can. So alignment is this centerpiece. Because when we are aligned, we're in universal harmony. What more do you need? When you're aligned, the mind is aligned. When the mind is aligned, it's not in limiting beliefs. It's not in scarcity. It's not in I'm not good enough. It means I have everything I need when I need it. I'm right where I need to be. Everything is divinely aligned and in divine time. What more do you need? If you walk through life like that, that's a good way to go. So that's alignment. That's alignment. That's a centerpiece. And it's a very sensitive place to be in because there's higher and higher and higher levels of alignment. Yeah. So there's a process there. And as I mentioned, if we're not tracking it, how do we know if we're making progress? Where's our alignment at? And we know the alignment based on how we feel, but we can also put some numbers to that. Feminine is how we feel, putting a number to it, a little bit more masculine. Some people might be resistant to that, but it helps. Like, what's your alignment out of 10 right now? Another way of articulating that is, how do you feel in relationship to your goals and your dreams? Are you living what you came here to live, what you came here to do? Are you the being that you want to be? Are you acting in accordance with the values that you want? Not the ones you inherited, not the conditioning, not the ones that the world told you, not the ones that your old life perhaps has asked of you, the one that you want. Are you living in accordance with that? So that's alignment, and I could talk a lot more, but I'm doing my best to not talk too much or not talk too little, but say just the right amount. And then in general, in my alignment coaching, I point people towards the 4 pillars of my system, which are the alignment process, practicing the internal arts, doing internal work, and then writing your story. Let's do a breakdown because they're all interrelated and connected. Alignment is this process of our lived experience of alignment, the vibrational calibration of our heart, mind, body, soul, spirit, our words, actions, all in alignment, in a direction that is the highest path. So part of that is pulling all the parts that aren't in alignment, the energy leaks we have, the addictions, getting really clear on what those are, and focusing our mind where we want to go. What's going to supplement that is internal arts practices. The internal arts, yoga, qigong, meditation, martial arts. You could even call working out an internal art of some sort if you're going into the internal dimensions. Like an internal art typically has a more expanded way of working with the internal body. For example, the yogic system works on internal qualities such as discipline and contentment in the practice. There may be a physical external practice such as the asanas, such as the movements and the postures, but there's an internal dimension of cultivating qualities of mind such as contentment, but it's also about lived actions such as not lying and stealing internally and externally, and deeper internal processes and practices of concentration, or another one they call pratyahara, which is a sense withdrawal, a capacity to, in some sense, recede from our senses and just be in our own inner light, in our own pranic connection to life force energy. This is the internal arts, and they're very complementary to alignment practices. And then there's internal work. This is shadow work. This is psychotherapeutic process. This is writing your story. This is so many things, which is part of what I offer individuals. And then the fourth is the creation principle. Now, you're always creating. You're writing your story with every breath, with every intention, with every movement, with everything that you say. This is your action. This is you writing your story. But in my system, I do encourage individuals to literally write their story. There's a fair amount of writing in some of the psychotherapeutic processes, and I like that because it's very helpful. I'm a little bit biased because I am a writer, but it's helpful because when we have feelings and their sensations and we translate them into words, the understanding I have that I've learned is that it takes information from the right hemisphere more towards the left, and it processes them based on like whole brain. Then we've moved from the right to the left, and it's been integrated at that higher level. Now we do lose something, of course, when we try to translate a feeling into a word, but there's something beautiful about working with writing and writing the story. And I'll get a little bit more into that. So we have those 4 pillars. There's a nice little guidepost there. And then I teach individuals a number of different things, such as a 4-step formula. This is a 4-step alignment formula. Now, this formula can be used in many different ways. One of the ways that you can use it is in each and every moment. Now, the original inspiration for this, I will say, is from Bashar's formula. And I haven't actually heard his formula in a while, so I'm not going to try to re-articulate it now. But it has the same essence, but I have changed it quite a bit, so I can't say it's the same formula. But I do want to acknowledge that the base of the inspiration of this was from him. So the first step I use is alignment. Now, alignment here refers to what I've been articulating. It's the highest path of love, dharma, and excitement. Excitement being Bashar's word, yeah? So in each and every moment, we have an opportunity to pause and align. My encouragement for individuals as they do this is to literally stop what they're doing. Because when things are in motion, there's a momentum. When we stop, we have our opportunity to introspect and calibrate. The calibration most effectively done by calibrating to your, literally like your brain, your heart, and your enteric nervous system. These are major oscillators in the body of information and intelligence. So it's nice to tune in first to the body, and particularly to the breath and these major centers of intelligence. And then to align. So the question would be, What is the highest path? What is the heart compass guiding me towards? What is my highest inspiration? What's my highest fuck yes in this moment? Now you can do this in each and every moment, especially, when it's hard. Like it works if you have the day off and there's anything you can do. And that's a great way to do it. But I also encourage individuals, if they're doing something that they don't prefer, perhaps it's a job they would prefer not to be in, you can still apply this formula. Now, if your highest inspiration says, fuck this job and quit it, that may be the right path. It may not be. In order to say that's the right path, you'd have to go into yourself and know yourself at a deep level, because you have to be really confident that your belief systems can support you, that if you follow that path, you're willing to go through, the shifts that you have chosen, because I believe your highest path can support you through synchronicity and will support you. But you have to maintain your vibration. So if you can quit your job and not move into fear patterns of, oh crap, I just quit my job, I don't have enough money, oh shit. If you can not do that, there is a magical path of synchronicity there available to you. For most people, what we do is we work within our belief systems and how we can challenge them. Just like working out, typically we can only expand beyond where we were yesterday, just in incremental ways. So perhaps it's not quitting the job, it's doing the job in a way that's more preferable to you to create a higher alignment. So that could be, maybe you've been showing up in the job and you haven't liked it, so you're not showing up in the way that is inspiring to you, you're acting out of alignment with who you are. Maybe you can bring more of yourself online there. Maybe you would like to bring more of your joy or your humor into that environment. And even though it's not the most preferable place, you have agreements and there's a certain reason why you're there. So how can you show up in a more aligned and exciting way? And continue to work on that momentum, raising your vibration. As you raise your vibration and you're in a more positive state, you're more apt to see what else is positive. If you're more in a negative state, you're going to be seeing all the things that aren't preferable and are associated with your negative energy. That's what you're attracting in. So the more that you align with who you are and you pull your energies to you and you raise your vibration, you can then begin to perceive more opportunities that are in alignment with your vibration and attract that towards you. And that can be your pathway towards evolving out of that circumstance that you don't prefer. That was a little tangent. Let's go back to alignment. Alignment, the first step, is aligning with your highest path. So at each and every moment, you have an opportunity to choose from an potentially infinite amount of things. So how many times do we do this? How many times do I do this? Well, there's always more opportunities to do it, I'll tell you that. So there's always more opportunities to be creative. And the more that we're creative, we begin to listen to our imagination. Our imagination is our higher mind. Our higher mind is connected with our soul, which is connected with the Great Spirit, giving us information. The more we tap into our creative intelligence, the more creative solutions, new neural pathways develop. This is a pathway towards our evolution. And the more that we can listen to the inspirations of our imagination, we're creating from our imagination. When you create from your imagination, that is a unique thing in the world, because no one has your imagination. That's a value that you offer this world, which, especially if you're in a job that's not preferable, the more that you can create and offer the world, what you give is what you receive. You're offering more value, yeah? So another opportunity there for offering more value that is most authentic and coming from your higher self and center. So that's alignment. The next step is act. So once you've done some calibration, you got a little bit clear on your desire, what you want, then act. Action is so important. You can't just sit there aligning all day. You can go through deep alignment processes and meditations and do a lot of inner work to develop clarity in your dream and vision. But action is everything. Action is everything. So act. Bashar says to act, once again, probably shouldn't be articulating him because I don't want to speak it wrong because he's very exact with his formula, but something along the lines of do it for as long as you can, as best as you can, until you can't do it no further. The way that I've articulated that is act to the best of your abilities without expectation, attachment, or hesitation. And I like that quality of action because I know that within my life. And when I'm acting in that way, I have flow. Flow is that beautiful state when the individual doer, seems to fall away and there's a different quality of consciousness. And as the word implies, there's a flow of energy. And I best act in that way, moving without hesitation, moving without expectation, without attachment, by literally doing activities that encourage that in my system, particularly my physical system. For example, we're going to get into this in the next step, which is the cultivation step, but that is to dance. What better of a way to move through life is to practice dancing, because it's, for me, ecstatic dancing is moving without hesitation. It's not like calculated. It's not, does this look good? It's not controlled like so many other things that I do in life. It's like just moving and breathing without any hesitation, without any attachment if it looks silly or dumb, without any expectation. I'm not trying to do something incredible with my dance. I'm just dancing to dance. But I can also build this in my yogic practice, in my martial arts practice, going for a run. I just find that dancing and these most expressive, kind of purposeless movements really develop that in my system, that level of flow. Currently, I'm dancing one ecstatic dance a week, and I have for the last few weeks. And I haven't really danced too much on my own other than maybe a song or two. That builds enough flow for my week. One hour dance a week gives me enough of that flow. We'll talk a little bit more about daily practices and these kinds of things. So there's action. Action is, yes, it can be the dance, but it's also action in alignment with your goals and your dreams and your desires and your inspiration. What are you doing to take action on it? Maybe it's a small action. Maybe that action is actually because we're caring about our alignment here. It's not just alignment towards our dreams. It's just our alignment of feeling good as well. Maybe that alignment is just going for a walk. It's that tuning in. It's got to come from the heart. It's got to come from that inner intelligence. That's what we're looking to hone in, that practice of listening to our higher guidance that's coming through. So the actions are important. Continual actions. The third step is cultivate. Now, cultivation is a term that I learned from Qigong. And it's a beautiful term, and it's the fact that we can cultivate ourselves. We can cultivate our body to be strong. In regards to the internal arts, we can cultivate virtues. For example, I learned from the Buddhist tradition that, much of loving kindness is planting seeds on the heart. And they said that in a very specific way. Much of loving kindness is planting seeds on the heart. They're just planting seeds on the heart with the hope, with the prayer that one day they will blossom. And that's really beautiful, and it's in alignment with how reprogramming the subconscious and the mind works. Because a single repetition of a beautiful thought is good. It's like a seed planted. But there's the energy and momentum of all the other thoughts that we've thought in our lifetime and beyond. So we're planting seeds, and if you plant a seed enough, if you think a thought enough, it may become a flower. It may blossom. It may root itself deeply in the subconscious so that it comes more to the surface naturally. It arises without the conscious repetition. So the work that we do in the reprogramming and the loving kindness and the thinking thoughts that are dream affirmative are planting thoughts. They're forming pathways to the places that we want to go. So cultivation is what we do to maintain our vibration. Remember, it is about feeling. It's about feeling good. And it's about maintaining a positive state, because if we're in a negative state, we're going to perceive from the negative. And I'm not talking about positive, toxic positivity. I'm talking about the capacity to be with the reality as it is and to come into neutrality, which is awareness of the positives and the negatives of each circumstance. And from neutrality, choosing positivity. How is that different from toxic positivity? Toxic positivity just wants to see everything through the positive light. Nope, this is good. Nope, this is good. Nope, nope. There's no recognition of the negative because there's no willingness to experience or go into the negative. What I'm offering is there's a way to be present for what is and authentic and to be with it. And when we're fully with the negative, and we experience the negative emotions, they move through the system and they're processed, they're integrated. And when we can see the positive and we can come into neutrality, then we have free choice. We're not trying to force it, because life is in a dualistic way at that level of experiencing it. We are going to ebb and flow between those. So I hope that one's clear. I'm not going to go further into that at this point. We want to cultivate a state of receptivity. That's the dominant vibration that is most conducive for the alignment state to work with the law of attraction and to live life in a good way. I'll articulate that in a more spiritual way, in a more, you could say, scientific nervous system way. So the way that I was taught to pray, and this is quite common in the spiritual metaphysics world, it's articulated in several spiritual texts in many different variations, from yogic to biblical. Obviously not the core biblical, the kinds of teachings that they took out. But we're talking about a way to pray, and that way to pray is to pray to the higher consciousness, which is an aspect of you. So you could call it God, you could call it source, you could call it universe, doesn't matter. We're making a connection to this field of potential information. And say we want a prayer of manifestation for a vehicle. Sure, let's go vehicle. And we want to get clear on that on some way, and we want to have a period where we're asking for it. That asking is us focusing our mind on what we want. But we're not going to continually focus in the wanting of that which is not here, because then we're in a state of wanting what is not here, and that's not the vibration that is most conducive to receiving that. So there's some calibration of the mind to set its momentum, its motivational mechanisms, and its organizing principles. Once that has been stabilized, you can think 10 to 20 minutes of working with that vibration or coming back to it again and again over time. We build a touch point so that our mind has you could think of it as a subconscious pattern that's working on calling that in at the right time, at divine timing, right? And we don't want to be in the asking, so we come into receptivity. So simply letting that go and then coming into gratitude. And then living from gratitude and trusting that that will come to us at its right time. Now, it's not completely letting it go, because there may be some actions to live in accordance with that. I'm not going to go too deeply into this, because I can make a whole video on manifesting. I believe I have one actually, so maybe I'll reference that at some point in the show notes. But the most important thing here is we don't want to be in that asking state the whole time. We want to be in a receptive state. So receptivity means an openness in our field. It's much more like almost like a feminine position. And the way that I'll translate this with a more scientific lens is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is like action and using energy. By the way, it's not a perfect analogy, but I think it works here. And we don't want to be in high sympathetic activity all the time. It's good. Like when you work out, it's good to stress the system, hermetic stress. It's like a window of stress at a certain threshold and a certain period and time, all these kinds of things, yeah? But only for a time. And then the rest of the time, if we're in parasympathetic, that's ideal, because parasympathetic, we utilize or we gather energy and we rest and we digest. If we're always using our energy in sympathetic, we're going to drain out the system. Same thing, if we're always asking and we're never receiving, there's no balance. And the way that the system balances, it likes to be primarily in parasympathetic. Just like in terms of the optimal way for receiving manifestations, as I've lived and experienced them, is to have times in which you're asking, really intense periods of times where you're asking and asking, like you're coming into your workout, you're coming into high intensity, and then you're just letting it go. That's the way that I've come to work with it. And cultivation there also refers to the internal arts that I've alluded to in the beginning. So these are ways of cultivating our mind and body with our breath, with our movements, with various different meditations, so that we can have a higher sensitivity towards our own vibration. This is what breathing practice is, and these things allow us to develop within ourselves. And it helps us to clear out limiting beliefs and negative emotions from the system, yeah? So I could go into that further, but I'm going to pass on, might touch back into it later. The fourth principle here, just a review of where we're at so far. We've stopped, we've aligned, we've chosen what we want, and we take action on it, and then we maintain a positive state of receptivity and positivity. So maybe we've taken some deep breaths, and then we create. From here, we create our life through our actions, through our words, through the moment-to-moment experience that we're having. The second part of create is to observe when blockages arise. Blockages being limiting beliefs or negative beliefs, negative emotions, or physical blockages in the system that prevent us from moving forward in a good way. As we observe those, the process and practice would be to identify them and to, clear them. This can be done through the practices of the internal arts, qigong, yoga, working out, or the psychotherapeutic inner work processes alluded to in the 4 pillars. This could be some rewriting your story, getting into the belief systems, working with a counselor or alignment coach, etc. So that's a 4-step formula that can be done at each and every moment, yeah? As you navigate through life, it's always with you. You can always align to what is most representative of who you are in your highest path, take actions on it. You can always be doing things in the moment to choose the highest vibrational thoughts and to maintain a high vibrancy state. And then you can create your life. You're the one writing the script. You're writing your thoughts. You're co-creating in that process, yeah? So we can work with that. But the 4-step formula is also a more expanded formula for what my coaching system, how I work with my coaching system. So the alignment principle, which is number 1, is also something that we can work on quite a bit. For example, when I track my alignment, I track 13 different areas of my life. I'm not going to articulate them all, but several of them are spirituality, relationship to earth and nature. I have my business, my family, my friends, my community, my self-care, my education, playtime in my life. These are all things that I'm looking at, which are all calibrated into my alignment, because when all of these things are really balanced, then I feel really good. It's not just like one hyper focus on my business or anything. My alignment is the holistic picture of my whole life. So not so much a process of just tuning in with the heart, but more of an expanded process on what are the components of alignment. I have a whole 8 dimensions of alignment worksheet, which goes over our one love, our dream, the dominant themes in our life, the yin and yang balance of our life, the optimal decision, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, Dr. Happiness, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, all these kinds of things. It's an expanded version of how to comprehensively track our alignment. These are things that I do for myself once a month. Once a month, I go through this very comprehensive system and I'm tracking it, rating things out of 10, looking at what's been going well. And then I devise a number of things that are going to represent how I'm going to work on these, and then I structure them into goals. We're going to get more into that in a little bit. So the alignment process can be done in a more expanded version. The action process, that one's a little bit less, that's more just acting. So we'll kind of skip over that one. And then the cultivation process, as I mentioned, the first way of using the formula is to do it in the moment. The other way of doing it is to do it in a more expanded version, which would mean learning internal arts practices and practicing them for prolonged periods. And this is going to cultivate more resilience and momentum in the system in the ways in which we want it to go. And then creating, once again, you're creating in the moment, but it's also you creating. So in my system, I encourage individuals to write a lot, to have a daily journal, but there's also sections where they're writing their old disempowered story, the old chapter in their life. And then they're also writing their new story, the story that they're stepping into. And then, for example, another worksheet that I offer individuals is to get clear on what your unique energetic design is. I refer them out to working with a number of resources, such as your zodiac, such as your human design. These kinds of things are introspective. They teach you how to look within and see these qualities that may or may not resonate. And the more that you can get a deep inner understanding of how you energetically operate in the world, this is how you can devise your unique strategy for your optimal thriving and you being in your zone of genius. Because it's not cookie cutter. For example, in human design, I'm a reflector. It's a very rare type and a very unique type. And energetically, I can't, you could say, keep up with certain other energies in their consistency because I have a much more varied way of being in the world, which is more conducive to the many different creative outlets and the many different aspects of my business, which somebody who has a more consistent, I don't know if consistent's the right word, but a different quality of energy wouldn't be able to maintain the sheer amount of things that I do. So there's a uniqueness to all of us. So we need to be able to fine tune our strategy of how we live and operate in the world, which reflects our unique blueprint of how we can thrive. And yeah, this was so key for me. This is so key for me. Of course, having a unique design, but everybody's got a unique design. But when I first got into business and marketing and trying to do what the majority of people were doing and not being an energetic type that is the majority, the strategies that I was hearing, which were working for other individuals, weren't working for me. So it took me some time to have enough introspection and calibration with what my design is, what my gifts are. So as I went into this development, this all factored into when I'm tuning into that first step of my alignment. I know myself at a much deeper level because of that. And I can choose, I can listen to my heart at a deeper level because of that calibration time that I've done to do that internal work, which is one of the 4 pillars, the internal psychotherapeutic process and the knowing of the self. Yeah. So this comes from doing this more expanded way. Okay, I'm going to do a rehash of what we've talked about so far. So we talked about alignment as the foundational piece. It's the vibration that we are, and it's our pathway. It's our highest path, the highest path of alignment, of love, dharma, and excitement. And when we're acting in accordance with it, there's no better way. This is the most important thing. There's 4 pillars to my system is working with alignment, calibration process, getting clear on what alignment means in terms of our dream and our values, practicing the internal arts such as yoga and qigong, doing internal work and psychotherapeutic process, shadow work, etc., and more becoming empowered to write your story, literally living your story. But also my encouragement is to write your story. And this could be done through singing, dancing, or telling stories. I offer a 4-step formula, which is inspired originally from Bashar. The 4-step formula is to align, then to act, maintain your state through cultivation, and to create your life observing blockages and then moving past them. As a more expanded version of that, there's a lot of alignment in my system. Practices to calibrate and refine what your alignment is, your unique energetic design and what you came here to do, your dream, your theme. Taking action, how to more powerfully take action in the world, because what we give is what we receive. Practices to cultivate our mind and our body, more focus, precision, resilience. And to create our life, to become the author of our life, to learn how to close down old stories, conditioning, old patterns, and to more powerfully write the next chapter of our story, calling it in and clearing those blockages, observing limiting beliefs, negative emotion, and holding patterns, and knowing how to heal them through the internal arts, through reconditioning the system, nervous system programming, yeah? Okay, so what are some of the things that I do on a daily basis that I can offer you? So on a daily basis, I journal. When I got serious about this, I was like, I need to write my own story. I'm writing a new chapter. Okay, got a journal. Chapter 1, this is my new life. And I track my mental, emotional life and how I feel. I track the things in my inner life that I would share with my beloved, that I would share with my innermost friends. And I have this relationship with myself because before I did this, I just didn't have a relationship with my innermost self. The only way I could share my innermost thoughts was with other people. And I was like, why can't I be my own best friend? Why can't I be my own beloved? Why can't I have a deep relationship with myself? And I do this best through writing. As I mentioned, I'm a writer. So this may not be the ideal way for you, but maybe you have another practice. I mentioned singing, dancing, and telling stories. These are so foundational. This is part of writing our story. This is part of how I express myself and how humans express themselves universally. So there's some way of initiating in a clear, deliberate way the new chapter in your life on a daily basis, tracking that, keeping it mainstream. Otherwise, we just fall into the old patterns and then we lose. But if there's something consistent that's done, that's so good. Okay, and then I work on my alignment morning and evening. These are the key points of the day when our nervous system is most, could be the word, receptive to momentum. Because we want momentum behind our dream affirmative thoughts, which call forth the emotions that we want to feel, because that's us relating to our dreams in a good way, which help to condition the body. If we don't calibrate in the morning, we go out into the world in distraction, being a part of other people's momentum and dreams, challenges, all these kinds of things. So developing enough sovereignty in your vibration and direction in your vibration in the morning is so important. And then in the evening is when, once again, we're going into the dream time. Your subconscious is going to work on everything. So we want to calibrate once again in the evening to close down, like a computer, closing down the old tabs we're not using so that we can start fresh in the morning. What do I mean by alignment in the morning and the evening? I mean like 20 to 90 minutes, depending on your time. You can go longer. I wouldn't suggest going too much shorter than that unless you can really potently activate yourself and depending on what your life and your dreams are. But 20 to 90 minutes of an alignment activity, which for me is my daily devotional prayer. In this, I give gratitude. There's a short prayer, and then there's a calibration towards my manifestations and the things that are most important to me. And then I practice. I practice the internal arts, either movement or meditation or breath work or all three of them. This gives me enough momentum and resilience in my vibration that I can usually maintain it till the end of the day, where I recalibrate it at evening. And if I don't maintain it, I come back in the evening and I recalibrate it. Practices in the evening, This is where I'm more likely to do my journaling, part of my alignment. And then meditation is much more apt than movement in the evening for me, but sometimes it's yin or stretching and these kinds of things. 2 touch points. These are my regulations. These are so essential to my life. I've been practicing meditation for about 10 years. I've been working daily with the internal arts for coming on like 9 years now. And this has been the centerpiece of my life. Once again, is part of the daily, written here, internal arts, but I've discussed them as part of alignment there. So that's what I'm doing on a daily basis. Now, throughout the day, I have the morning and evening, I'm using the formula. So as an entrepreneur and business owner who has an alignment coaching business, I'm developing my own internal art. I have a holistic energy medicine clinic, and then I have a energy medicine school coming out, among podcasting and YouTubing and all the things. There needs to be a nice way of hierarchically structuring what is most important, which we'll get to goal setting soon. But I'm applying the formula on top of the goal setting, which is taking a moment to pause, listening to my heart. Because if it's just my mind trying to figure out all these things, I'm not nearly as intelligent. But if I'm calibrating mind, heart, enteric nervous system, gut nervous system, because I've moved my body, I'm connected to the intelligence within, then I ask myself, what is most inspiring and exciting? What's most aligned for my highest path? Then my higher mind, my imagination and soul begin to speak more compellingly and more loudly and clearly through me, which guides my actions. The moment I started doing this regularly, the time I started doing this regularly, this is when the things that I have been offering had become more productive, and they continue to become more productive the more that I follow this strategy. If I start just getting into my mind and doing to-do lists and other things, I lose that calibration. My business progression is no different than my spiritual progression. I see it that way. And then weekly, what am I doing weekly? I'm going through an alignment process. It's not my full comprehensive 8 dimensions of alignment, which is 12 pages. That's what I do monthly for a higher level calibration. What I do weekly has 6 to 7 components, depending on how you extract these. So I pretty well draw, you could say 5 circles, and then 1 to 7. So what I do is I draw a nice big circle, and then I put the 13 components of my alignment that I'm tracking. These are the things that I mentioned before: spirituality and self-care, education and friends and family, and then I rate all of them out of 10. Now, just because there's a low number doesn't mean I'm going to work on it. It's not like a balance wheel where you have to keep everything in balance, because, well, that's not really sensitive to my life. Right now, art is quite low in my life. I'm not doing as much drawing and writing and these kinds of things, but I'm not needing to. I'm not feeling the call to, and that's not what I'm focusing. So there's an intelligence there. I'm listening. And then it's like, okay, what do I want to focus on? Okay, friends. I will write down some of my core friendships in my life. Okay, what's going on with them? Do I need to follow up with any of these people, etc.? Okay, let's keep that in notes. And then earth. Have I been spending time in nature? No. Okay, I got to spend some time in nature this week. And then I'll go through all of these and I'll write these things out right around the circle. And then I'm going to use these later, so let's just put a pause on that. Remember that those are there. Then I draw another big circle. This is the work of drawing a mandala. Very good for the imagination to speak through us. I draw something in relationship to my dream and my theme. My dream is it's my dream for this life. It's my business that I just articulated in the 4 pillars. And it's my future relationship and children. This is the ways in which I'm interacting with communities and they're thriving. I want to have some symbolic representation. And of course, sometimes I do write words in here. Often these are just sketches, like very simple and very quick. I'm not taking an hour to make a beautiful picture, though sometimes I go deeper into it. Sometimes it's just stick men. but I'm getting some kind of visual representation that I can look at during my week that can connect me back to that. And then in this, I can also add in any weekly goals or anything else I want to orient towards, which could be from the information taken from the last circle. Now, I don't always do this one, but on the left is the negative sign, on the right is the positive sign. The left represents any challenges, limiting beliefs, negative emotions, and stories that I've identified in relationship to my dream or the next week that I want to clearly track. And then on the right, I write the positive, the belief systems that I want to orient towards, the ideal strategies, right? So for example, say I just got, I had to pay $3,000 for some auto stuff, which is what actually happened. I could have my habit pattern reaction as I did, going, oh shit, what does this mean? Negative emotion, do I have enough, etc. Okay, well, that's the old belief system and story. I'm not going to orient towards that. That creates negativity in my body, and it's not even necessarily true. It's not true at all. So, what is the positive belief that I want to orient towards that creates positivity in my body? And what's the strategy that I want to develop? What's the state that I want? So, I want to be in a state of abundance, trusting that I can attract that. And then what's the strategy? Making a concrete plan in any way that I can based on the information that I have and the resources that I have. And then also leaving an openness for divine intervention of things to come in. And this has happened recently, and I've already received exactly what I need. So there's a way of, once again, working with the manifestation of getting clear and then maintaining the receptive state and things being delivered. So that's the positive and the negative in the dream and the theme. Really good way to work with the limiting belief stories, because old negative beliefs are like tracks of snow that have been walked through. They're the most developed pathways, so they're the most apt for the neurons to fire in. They're the most apt for it's the pathway of least resistance at that point. But creating a new positive pathway at first can be a little bit more, because we have to make those tracks. But ultimately, it is the pathway of least resistance. So when we start orienting towards the positive, it becomes easier and easier. And finally, that old path can just... And then there's the yin and yang symbol. So I draw another circle, the yin and yang. Most people are familiar with that. What is out of alignment in my life? What's out of balance? What's out of harmony? Where am I giving my energy? Where am I using my energy? How am I not using my energy well? Where my energy leaks? It's all about balancing my energy. Does my nervous system need rest? Do I have energy to give? There's a little calibration there, yeah? And then this one's less of a circle, and it's more 5 points, and then I connect them in a circle. If you've ever seen 5 elements diagram from TCM, this is that. I'm only going to go into brief detail because it's a comprehensive system that I could spend all podcast talking about. But in their system, they connect 5 elements with 5 lights, with 5 mind qualities, with 5 emotions, etc., etc. What to know here is I track negative emotions: anger, anxiety, worry, sadness, fear. From here, I can go into, okay, rate those out of 10. What have I been experiencing? Have I experienced more fear lately? Okay. What are the belief systems? What is that tied to? Okay, do I need to make any strategies? It's that same kind of process, identifying it, tracking it. And then once again, I can do this kind of psychotherapeutic mental work into going into the belief systems and stories. And then I have my toolkit of internal arts practices to help to clear those from my specific organs, those specific emotions. For example, the Qigong healing sounds. Next, I write 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, representing the 7 chakras. And then I do a calibration. So, for example, these all relate to different areas in the body, as well as concepts like the root chakra relates to finances, the sacral chakra to relationships, etc. I rate these out of 10. I see where I want to focus. Once again, it's that same process. I'm sure you're privy to what's going on at this point, so I'm not going to go into great detail there. And then the final one, or the final two, is I make another circle. This one has 8 divisions, and these are the 6 holistic health principles from Paul Chek. And then I borrow from his 4-doctor model and just use the 2 doctors that aren't already represented in the 6 principles, giving us 8 principles of holistic health. I don't think it's necessary to go over all of them, but for example, breathing, drinking water, moving, sleeping. Dr. Happiness means taking time to do what makes you happy. Dr. Quiet means time for introspection, thinking patterns, etc. Once again, I rate all of these, and then I see what I'm going to focus on for the week in terms of my diet and movement, etc. So from this information, from all the circles and all the information so far, I do an OPA. OPA is the name that I used to call my grandfather, but not relevant for this. OPA stands for outcome, purpose, and action. It's a way of goal setting. Do you have a goal set? Do you have a goal set and you've done so many goals, and then at the end of the day or the end of the week, you're just doing goals and you get some dopamine, but you're not fulfilled. Fulfillment doesn't come from dopamine. It's more related to serotonin, just as a little privy there. But this OPA system is a way of going around that. The outcome means, what do you ideally want? What's the ideal outcome? Well, ideal outcome, successful $1 million business. Okay. Outcome, have enough in funds for future daughter's college. Okay. Outcome. So we have these clear outcomes. What's the purpose of those? Okay, successful business, support family, give back to community, sending daughter to school, give love. Okay, and then action. Action is the goals. So now that the goals are calibrated to the higher priority of like why we do them, there's more motivational mechanism behind it. There's more of an orienting principle. Everything's calibrated, yeah? And then setting goals, I like low, medium, and high. High meaning things that are important, should get done today. Medium, meh, kind of in the middle. Low, more long-term, just things to note. So then everything's charted out there for my week. I have my goals. I'll typically also do low, medium, and high, and then I'll structure it around my 13 dimensions. So I'll have a number of business goals. I'll have a number of different friends I want to contact. I have a number of different things that I want to do for working out and finances, etc. Now, if you're like, that's so many things, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I've been working with this system for many years, and I've just added pieces, yeah? In the beginning, this is why I work with individuals one-on-one. We start with where they're at. I get an understanding of how much time they have, what they're willing to do, what their goals are, and then offering how much practice, which practices, etc. Yeah. But for me, to do that kind of weekly calibration, I can do that in 10 minutes. Like, that's how quickly I draw these circles. I'm not spending a lot of time making them beautiful masterpieces. They're just check-in points. And because I'm doing it regularly, it's kind of like my subconscious is working on it and has all the information all queued up. It just takes that extra few moments to calibrate it, and then everything becomes really clear. And once again, a lot of the information here is coming from my higher guidance. So the more that I'm doing this, the clearer and easier it is, because I'm tuned into my imagination, my higher self. And this is what's the stream that's like being channeled through me, yeah? So that's what I would offer on a weekly basis. And then, as I mentioned, the deeper dive is the 8 dimensions, which is the 12-page document going into an even more expanded version of what we've all talked about. In addition to what is here, and that's represented in the 8 dimensions, there's a fine tuning into like the yamas and niyamas. So have you lied or cheated, and tracking all of that kind of thing. Your disciplines. Are you content in your life? There's a much wider scope there. And once again, you can enter into these systems with as much or as little as you feel fits in your life. Just like any kind of internal arts or yogic practice, there's some people that quit their job, leave their family, go to a cave, and they practice these things near 24/7. And there's certain individuals like myself who practice them a few hours a day, and some people it's a few hours a week. Let the practices fit your life and your goals. I'm a yoga teacher. It's important for me to practice more than just a few hours a week. I don't feel in integrity with my practice at that level and what I'd like to offer and where I'm going. That's not aligned with me. So there's a checking in as to how much or how little. In a very simplistic way, if someone wanted to extract the system, like track your areas of alignment, doesn't even have to be 13, maybe you have 5. What's your dream and theme? So you can calibrate your alignment. And what are the 8 principles of holistic health? How are you going to take good care of your health this week? Very simple. And then do a higher level of alignment of your goals, your finances, and all that stuff at another time, perhaps. Yeah. So there's so many ways to work with this. And the cool thing is that when I work with individuals, though it sounds complex, I can relay this information in very simplistic ways. And I'm sure you can take some time to work with the idea of alignment and how it feels in your body, because this is just, we could say, metaphysical science. The more that we calibrate in with our vibration, with our alignment, with the intelligence of the heart, the more information comes forth. The heart has an intelligence. You could take it out of the body and it still beats. It's got its own nervous system. And in the Chinese system, it's known to be connected with our Shen, our spirit. And that's where we receive a lot of communication from our higher guidance. Now, my understanding is that we receive intuitive communication through all systems: kinesthetic, empathetic, mental, higher sensitivities, clairvoyance, through all of our chakras, through all of our organs. So I don't think intuition is just localized to the head or the solar plexus or the heart. It's all over. Our whole body is I can't think of the word. It is a receptacle. Is that what you call that thing? A receiver of information. We're just like an antenna. That's the one. We're an antenna for information. And information is coming from all directions, from universal forces, from earth and sky. But the most important one, in my opinion, to tune into is our own higher guidance. So having some kind of simple and deliberate process of tuning in and aligning with what you want, taking actions on it, maintaining a positive state, choosing to create your life, this is revolutionary. Revolutionary in the spiritual sense, not in the sense that I need to save the world, like some kind of like Christ complex. Revolutionary in the inner sense, and that I don't need to change the world. I'm going to start with changing myself, and I'll let the world be as it is and trust the divine with all that and divine timing for how things unfold. And I'll take care of myself. Taking care of myself is not selfish, because we're the center of our medicine wheel. We're the center of our connected higher spiritual body, which is not just our subtle auric bodies. In our center, it's connected to all other centers, our family and our community and our earth. So when we are acting in accordance with our dharma and that highest path, that is most beneficial for all beings. And that might be you off in a Buddhist monastery doing your work and not actually acting in the world. Maybe for a year, maybe for a lifetime. So the key here is, can you listen to that spiritual impulse to allow you to be driven towards that inspiration of that highest path? And that is the most beautiful thing that you can offer this life. All right. So how do I work with individuals? I work with individuals on a one-on-one setting. I even do a lot of one-offs. In that kind of setting, we drop into meditation. There's an intention setting. There's I say I'm fairly extensive in my assessments, so the forms that you fill out to get some of this calibration points. It's a lot of what we chatted about here, writing in and charting out of 10 where you're at in these multi-dimensions, and then getting clear on like what your intention is. And it could just be exploration, but going deep into calibrating what your alignment is, what blocks you, What is in your way from living that highest path of fuck yes, I'm excited to move forward in life. I'm moving and orienting towards all of my dreams. I don't feel the weight of limitations. I see the challenges and I'm willing to go through them as growth processes. And those one-off sessions are really productive. I often give prescriptions or internal arts, meditation, medication, things that individuals can can practice on a daily basis to maintain their energetic fields. And then I also work with individuals in longer term scenarios, such as multi-week. This can just be done off the fly. Say we're going to do 3 sessions. What can we develop as a care plan in that time, or just a bunch of one-off sessions? Those are equally productive. But if you want a deeper dive into going into the system, that's more like a 3-month. That gives us an opportunity to calibrate over those 3 months using the more expanded tracking systems, as well as going into more of the worksheets. If you're just doing the one-offs, you're not going into a lot of these worksheets, into rewriting your story and not into that. Unless you're into that, I'm happy to share all my resources in terms of my documents and what I offer. I just offer that for free for anyone. I'm not going to go into a comprehensive list of what I'll offer, but if you are curious about doing your own work and you're happy and diligent to do that, just reach out and we can have a conversation about what I all have there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for spending your time and your energy with me. I think I talked really fast because I wanted to share a lot of this information. I hardly sipped any of that 5 mushroom tea, and the willow tree is still looking beautiful. Have an amazing day.